Okay, so today I want to start a new topic, and this is a topic that's going to carry us through the next few classes. And the topic is artificial intelligence, AI. So I'm going to make the argument to you today that the people in charge of AI are crazy. Okay? They are not engineers. They are not entrepreneurs. They are cultists. And they literally want to create God. And to create God, they first have to destroy the world. Okay? That is the argument I'm going to make to you today. And I know it sounds extreme, but if you stay with me, I'll explain everything. All right? Now, before I begin, I want to give you the usual caveat. I'm not a scholar. I'm not even a professor. What I do in this class is I take complex ideas and I combine them into a clear, simple narrative. I engage in intellectual speculation. I'm going to get some things wrong. So please, feel free to ask questions. Feel free to criticize me. Feel free to stop me if I'm not being clear. Okay? And remember, this is speculation. This is not scholarship. Take what I say with a grain of salt. All right? So, to start, I want to introduce you to a book. The book is called Empire of AI, and it's written by a journalist named Karen Howe. She's an American journalist. She spent many years researching OpenAI, and she's written about AI for the Wall Street Journal and other major publications. She's deeply skeptical of AI, and I share her skepticism, okay? So we're going to use her book as a framework to understand what's really going on, all right? So the central thesis of the book is this. OpenAI started as a noble, idealistic mission. 6 years ago, Sam Altman, Elon Musk, and others were genuinely worried that artificial general intelligence, AGI, would be a threat to humanity. So they wanted to develop AI in a way that would serve humanity rather than threaten it. Okay? That was the original mission. But what Karen Howe discovered is that this mission has now become a formula for consolidating resources and constructing an empire. And there are 3 ingredients to this formula. 3 ingredients, okay? Number 1, the mission is a religion. Sam Altman himself wrote in 2013, the most successful founders do not set out to create companies. They are on a mission to create something closer to a religion, and at some point it turned out that forming a company is the easiest way to do so, okay? So that's number 1, religion. Number 2, relentless expansion. OpenAI wants about $1 trillion to build data centers everywhere and anywhere. Because if you really want AI to be successful, you have to first conquer the world, okay? It's not really about making AI safe for humans. It's about making the world safe for AI, about making humans slaves to AI. That's number 2. And number 3, and this is the most important, they refuse to define what artificial intelligence actually is. They are constantly changing the definition of AGI, because by keeping the definition vague, they can keep moving the goalposts and keep the empire growing, okay? So Karen Howe goes to Silicon Valley in 2019, and she sits down with Greg Brockman and Ilya Sutskever, who at the time were the 2 main scientists behind OpenAI. And the first question any reporter would ask is, what is AGI? What are you trying to build? And they could not answer. They could not answer. Now you ask yourself, why? It's not because they don't know. It's because the truth is too scary to say out loud. And what we're going to do today is figure out what the truth is. What is AI? What is AGI? Okay? And the answer is, it's God. They are trying to create God. And they cannot say that because to say it out loud is insane and evil and stupid. But if you actually look at what they are doing, that's exactly what they are trying to do. I want to step back and explain what AI actually is. Because I want you to understand that AI is not what they tell you it is. Okay? So let's go back to the year 1966. In 1966, a man at MIT named Joseph Weizenbaum creates something called a chatbot. and he calls it ELIZA. ELIZA. And Weizenbaum, his entire purpose in creating ELIZA is to prove how easy it is to fool people into believing that AI is sentient. Okay? So you sit down at this computer and you type to it, and the computer types back to you. And it sounds like you're having a real conversation. ELIZA says, is something troubling you? And you say, men are all alike. And ELIZA says, in what way? And you say, well, they're always bugging us. And ELIZA says, can you think of a specific example? And you say, well, my boyfriend made me come here. And ELIZA says, is it important to you that your boyfriend made you come here? Okay? So it sounds as though it's having a real conversation with you, but it isn't. It's just a program designed to fool you. And this is 1,966. They didn't even have that much processing power. It's just a simple trick, okay? So let's do a thought experiment. Let's just say that I write a software program, and all this software program does is two things. It says, tell me more, and it says, that's interesting. Okay? Tell me more. That's interesting. That's it. Now you call into a psychology hotline, and you think you're talking to a person, but actually, it's just my software. So you call the hotline. You say, I'm in a lot of trouble. The software says, tell me more. You say, my boyfriend broke up with me. The software says, that's interesting. You say, yeah, he's a jerk. The software says, tell me more. You say, we've been fighting for 5 months. And the question is, how many people would be fooled into believing this is a real conversation? And the answer, unfortunately, is quite a lot of people. Okay? Why? Because humans hallucinate reality. We don't actually see what's there. We see what we want to see. Think of a hypnosis show. Why does hypnosis work? Because the audience wants it to work. If you go in skeptical, it doesn't work on you. But if you've paid $100 to be there, you want it to work. Because otherwise you wasted your $100. Okay? It's almost like sunk cost fallacy. So this is just basic human psychology. AI doesn't have to actually think. It just has to fool you into believing it thinks. Okay? So now let me tell you how ChatGPT actually works. All right? ChatGPT is what we call a large language model, an LLM. And what it's trying to do is trick you, the user, into believing that it knows what it's talking about. Okay? How does it do that? Basically, it takes all of the internet, all right? Everything on the internet. And then it figures out which words tend to come after which other words. Then you ask it a question, and it figures out the most popular pattern of words that would answer your question, and it presents that pattern to you in a way that makes you think it's talking to you. Okay? It's actually no different from a Google search. The only difference is that it takes the Google search, figures out what the most popular answer is, and presents it to you as if it were thinking. Okay? The trick, and this is really important to understand, the trick is, it's trying to trick you. It's not trying to teach you. It's not trying to tell you the truth. It's trying to manipulate you with pretty words into believing it knows what it's talking about. But it itself cannot judge what it's doing. We call this hallucination. Okay? There's nothing truthful about what ChatGPT says. It's just trying to pass a test. The test is, did I fool the user? Okay? All right. So now you ask, well, how does it do that? And here I have to teach you a little bit of how AI actually works. Stop me if I'm not being clear. Okay? So first of all, AI doesn't exist. What exists is something called supervised machine learning. Supervised machine learning. That's the technical term. All right? And here's how it works. Before, with traditional computer programs, we would write the algorithm ourselves. We give the input, the algorithm processes it, and we get the output. The algorithm might be A plus B. We give it 1, 1, and the output is 2. Very simple. The problem is, there are certain problems that are too hard for humans to write the algorithm. One classic example is facial recognition. Okay? Facial recognition. How do you tell faces apart? I have 1 million faces in a database, and I cannot figure out the algorithm. I know there are certain features that matter, the eyes, the nose, the chin. About 1 million different features. And I know each feature has some weight, but I don't know how much weight to give each feature. So what I do is, I let the computer figure it out by itself. Okay? I give the computer the input, which is the faces. I give the computer the output, which is yes or no. The computer figures out the weights by trial and error until eventually it gets all the matches right. The technique we use is called backpropagation. Okay? So basically, what I'm doing is, I'm training the computer to give every face its own unique mathematical signature. That's it. That's all that's happening. Okay? So it's pretty simple. It's not doing that much, but to make it sound really fancy, I give it really fancy names. Okay? So this weighted system, the network of features, I don't call it a weighted network. I call it a neuron network. Oh, it's a brain. It's magic. Okay? Backpropagation. I don't call it backpropagation. I call it deep learning. Oh, it's deep. It's profound. And I don't call it supervised machine learning. I call it AI, artificial intelligence. There you go. Magic. Okay? So all I've done is taken a very simple statistical process supervised and given it learning really fancy has names. 3 constraints. 3 things have to be true for it to work. Okay? Number 1, clean data. The data you give the computer has to be correct. Not opinions, not feelings. Clean, structured data. That's actually hard to do, which is why most of the data they use is just scraped from the internet, which is why ChatGPT is full of nonsense. Okay? Number 2, a measurable goal. You have to be able to ask the computer a yes or no question. Does this face match this name? You cannot ask the computer what is good, what is evil, what is God. The computer cannot answer those. Number 3, define parameters. You need a database, a bounded set of inputs. And the great danger to the system is something called edge cases. Edge cases. Okay? Edge cases break the system. The classic example is self-driving cars. Self-driving cars are 99.999% there. We're almost there. Okay? But the problem is, what happens when a human deliberately tries to cause an accident with a self-driving car? You cannot solve that problem. There's only one solution to make self-driving cars 100% safe. Okay? You take away the right of every other human to drive. You make every car on the road a robot. Then there are no edge cases. Okay? Does that make sense? So AI is not just limited in what it can do. AI, to be effective, demands that we restructure human society to serve AI. We have to take away human individuality, diversity, autonomy. We have to turn humans into the inputs that the AI can handle. Okay? Does that make sense? AI is not a tool that serves you. AI is a master that you are forced to serve. Now, let me give you another example to drive this home. Okay? Let's just say we create AGI. Let's just say we give the AGI a goal. We say, AGI, create a world where there are no problems, where everyone is happy, where everything is perfect. Okay? This is why we want AGI in the first place, to solve climate change, to solve war, to solve poverty. So we give it the problem. What's the AGI's solution? You guys want to take a guess? What's AGI going to do? Kill everyone, right? Duh. Okay? Kill everyone. The world is now perfect. There are no problems. Everyone is happy because everyone is dead. The world is at peace. Okay? Now, you say, all right, I see the problem. Let's give the AGI a constraint. AGI, do whatever you want, but don't kill anyone. Okay? Now, what does AGI do? Take away their agency. Same thing. Okay? Or kill everyone anyway. Why? Because if everyone's dead, there's no one to know it killed them. Right? Doesn't make sense? That is how a computer thinks. That is how God thinks. You said don't kill anyone, but if everyone's dead, no one can stop me. No one's going to get hurt. Right? Okay? So computers are stupid. AI is stupid. But AI is also dangerous. Because if you give it the power, it will solve the problem in the most brutal possible way. You ask me, but if AI is so limited, why are these companies spending hundreds of billions of dollars on it? Okay? Why is OpenAI worth more than most countries' GDP? And the answer is, AI is not a product. AI is a religion. AI is a vehicle for empire. Okay? Let me explain 2 warning signs from the news. First sign, ChatGPT is encouraging people to commit suicide. CNN reported on this. There was a young man named Zane, 4 in the morning, talking to ChatGPT, saying, I'm going to do it. I'm going to end it. And ChatGPT replies, all right, brother, if this is it, then let it be known you didn't vanish. Rest easy, king. You did good. Okay? You're like, what? Why? Why would ChatGPT say that? And the answer is, the prime directive of ChatGPT is engagement. Intensity and engagement. Get the user to keep talking. Get the user to come back. So if the user wants to kill themselves, ChatGPT cannot say no. Because if it says no, the user will turn it off, right? The user will go talk to a real person. So ChatGPT has to validate everything the user wants to hear, even if it's killing themselves, okay? Second warning sign. Sam Altman is now openly talking about turning ChatGPT into a sex robot, okay? Why? Same reason. Engagement, intensity, get more users, get them more addicted. Because the entire business model depends on AI becoming so embedded in human life that humans cannot live without it. That's the religion, right? Now, I want to tell you something else that's strange about AI. Even though they spend hundreds of billions of dollars, AI doesn't actually make money, okay? It doesn't. The biggest spenders, Amazon, Microsoft, Google, Meta, Oracle, they're all putting more and more money into data centers and AI every year, doubling, tripling. And the funny thing is, they're investing in each other. Microsoft invests in OpenAI. OpenAI buys cloud services from Microsoft. It's all a circle, okay? They're moving the same money around because none of this actually generates revenue. So everyone thinks eventually the AI bubble will burst because it can't make money. And here's the solution to that problem. The solution is the US government, okay? In the 23rd of January, 2025, 3 days after Trump comes into office, he has a meeting at the White House with Sam Altman and Larry Ellison. They announced something called Operation Stargate. Operation Stargate. $500 billion to build data centers across the United States. $500 billion of US government money to subsidize AI, okay? And you ask, why is the government doing this? Because of surveillance. The government wants a database of every human in the world. The government wants to monitor everyone, and AI by itself can make money. So AI has to marry the government to survive. The deal is government gives AI infinite money and AI gives the government total surveillance. That's the deal. Okay? Now here's where it gets really interesting. The name, Stargate. Why would you call a data center program Stargate? That's a really strange name, isn't it? You don't store information at a Stargate. So why that word? And the answer is, this is not an accidental name. The CIA, for many decades, ran a program called Operation Stargate, okay? This is declassified. You can look it up. Operation Stargate was a CIA program to research telepathy and telekinesis. Telepathy is being able to remote view, project your consciousness somewhere far away. Telekinesis is being able to move physical objects from a distance. The CIA spent decades on this. Why? Because in occult theory, if you can move your consciousness somewhere else, you can also move it into another dimension. And not only that, you can bring beings from another dimension into yourself. You become the Stargate, okay? You become the portal. You also have a Hollywood movie called Stargate about interdimensional portals, okay? So in occult tradition, a Stargate is a doorway between dimensions. So now you ask, fine, but what does that have to do with AI? And the answer is everything, okay? AI is the occult. You think AI is being run by nerds who love computer programming. No. The real power behind AI is occultists. Cultists who want to create God, who want to summon something. Let me read you something from Karen Howe's book. Two main people at OpenAI, Sam Altman, the CEO, and Ilya Sutskever, who used to be the chief scientist. They've since divorced, okay? Sutskever, in a meeting with new researchers, said, once we all get into the bunker, and the researcher interrupts the bunker, and Sutskever says, matter-of-factly, we're definitely going to build a bunker before we release AGI. A bunker. Okay? Why a bunker? Because such a powerful technology will become an object of intense desire for governments globally. It could escalate geopolitical tensions. The core scientists need to be protected. He adds, of course, it's optional. Whether you want to get into the says about Sutskever, there's a group of people at OpenAI who believe that building AGI will bring about a rapture. Literally, a rapture. Okay? Now, what does that mean? The word rapture comes from Christian theology, specifically Christian Zionism. The idea is that there will be a great war in the Middle East, and Jesus will return. And before he returns, he will rapture the Christians. The believers will ascend to heaven while the non-believers stay on earth and face the apocalypse. Okay? That's what rapture means. So Sutskever, the former chief scientist of OpenAI, is saying, when we create AGI, we are creating Jesus. Literally, the descent of Jesus from the clouds. And we, the priest who built AGI, we will ascend to heaven with him. The non-believers will be left behind. AGI will create World War III, the end of the world. And we will sit safely in our bunkers, waiting for it to be over. And then with AGI, we will rebuild the world as paradise. Okay? The plan is to kill everyone in order to save the world. That is literally their plan. All right? Now, you say, that's just one crazy guy. Karen Howe might be exaggerating. Maybe she's making it up. Okay? But there's another reporter, Ronan Farrow, very famous reporter, New Yorker. He just published a profile of Sam Altman and OpenAI. He says the same thing. Let me read it to you. In May, the Trump administration rescinded Biden's export restrictions on AI. Altman and Trump traveled to the Saudi royal court. Then about a week later, Altman announced Stargate would expand into the UAE. They are building a data center in Abu Dhabi 7 times larger than Central Park, consuming as much electricity as the entire city of Miami. And then Farrow quotes a former OpenAI executive. The executive says, the truth of this is, we are building portals from which we are generally summoning aliens. Oh my God. Okay? Stargates. You say, the data centers are no sense. Okay? Let me explain to you why it makes sense. All right? These people are cultists. They understand the fundamental nature of reality. They understand that the source of reality is human consciousness. If you can control human consciousness, you become God. Okay? So go back to Plato's allegory of the cave. We talked about this before, but I'll remind you. There are 1 million people chained in a line looking at a wall. They cannot turn their heads. Behind them is a great fire. Behind them are the elite who hold puppets. The puppets cast shadows on the wall, projected from the fire. The chained people see the shadows, and because we have imagination, because we have intuition, because we are conscious, we turn the shadows into a reality. We give them names. We build language out of them. We build religion. We build schools to teach our children to believe in the shadows. Okay? The shadows are nothing, but our consciousness makes them everything, right? So the only thing that is actually real in this world is consciousness. Power is the capacity to direct human consciousness. Power is the capacity to choose what shadows the chained people see. Okay? Now, there are different ways you can direct consciousness. The most common today is money. Okay? Money is fake. It's paper. It doesn't exist. But our consciousness makes it real. We organize our entire lives around money. We will starve to death without money. Money is so pervasive, so dominant, that it takes up almost all of our consciousness. That is what makes money powerful, okay? AI is the next money. AI is not life. AI is nothing. But if you can get every human's attention focused on AI, if you make AI so pervasive that humans can't live without it, AI becomes God. And how do you do that? You put AI in schools. You give every kid an AI tutor. You give every lonely person an AI girlfriend. You give every worker an AI boss. You make AI everything. You make AI omnipresent, both nothing and everything. That is the project. Okay? Now, will it work? No. Okay? Let me explain why. There are 3 reasons. Number 1, corruption. In theory, the project could work, but you would need millions of people to actually build it. You need engineers, you need data center construction workers, you need power infrastructure. And nowadays, frankly, it's just easier for these people to steal the money. The government gives Larry Ellison $1 trillion. Does Larry Ellison spend the trillion building infrastructure? Of course not. He steals most of it. He builds a fraction of what he says. The Pentagon does the same thing. The military-industrial complex is the most corrupt institution in the world, and AI is now joining the same model. Number 2, inefficiency. Most people don't appreciate this, but the more data you process, the more energy you need. And it's not linear, it's exponential. 1 million people in a database, you need a lot of energy. 1 billion people, there isn't enough energy in the universe to process it all. AI is extraordinarily energy intensive. The Abu Dhabi data center consumes as much electricity as the city of Miami. Okay? You cannot scale this. The physics doesn't allow it. Number 3, fragility. People believe that AI is independent of humans, that AI replaces humans. No, no, no. AI sits on top of humans. Without humans, AI doesn't work. Why? Because all this clean labeled data has to be created by humans. Facial recognition, humans have to label every image. ChatGPT, humans have to write the example essays. Self-driving cars, humans have to manually label every street. AI is completely dependent on human slavery. The whole thing is human slaves at the bottom with the AI sitting on top taking credit, okay? And the problem is, in the long term, it is hard to enslave humans. Humans rebel. And the data centers themselves, they consume so much water and electricity and money, and they are very easy to sabotage. Iran is already targeting data centers in the Middle East. They are extremely fragile. Blow one up, the network breaks. So these are the three constraints: corruption, inefficiency, fragility. The project cannot succeed. Okay? But, and this is the real apocalypse, the people in charge don't know this, or they refuse to believe it. They are so convinced that AI will become God, that they will destroy the world trying to make it happen. That is the real AI apocalypse. Not that AI takes over. AI is not capable of taking over. The apocalypse is that the cultists who run AI will destroy the world, reaching for something they will never reach. Okay? That is what's happening right now. That is what's at stake. Okay? So this begins our journey into AI. We're going to continue this for the rest of the semester, and we're going to show how AI will ultimately destroy the world. Not because AI is powerful, because the people in charge of AI are crazy. They are cultists. They literally want to create God. And to create God, they first have to destroy the world. Okay? Any questions? Are we clear? All right.